we are starting. Okay, let's start very, very simply. What's the reaction when an actor reads such a smart screenplay?
You're kind of stunned by it, and I think that when I first read it, I had to readjust my brain to reading something that was so original, because I think you get really used to reading so many generic scripts and they're all derivative of each other, and so when something comes along that is just breathtakingly original, you're relieved and excited and then desperate to be a part of it. So I was thrilled by the script.
Well, what's the most challenging? I mean, is it transforming the character? Is it transforming? We haven't seen you like this in movies. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a challenge. I always get quite nervous at the beginning of each job, but I think I felt particularly nervous here, mainly because I think the emotional heartbeat of the film is weighing on this third act at the farm. But I was excited to play this role because it was such a kind of shape-shifting part for me, and there was no vanity. I was stripped of all makeup and dirty hair and, you know, chopping wood and firing a gun, and it was just great to play such a complex character who's strong. And I don't think Ryan wrote the character gender-based. You know, you read so many parts written for women which are just sort of written as two-dimensional characters. And he doesn't write a character based on gender. He just writes a great character.
You are right. What you're saying. It's a totally different tone in the third act of the movie. It's kind of a new movie that we're entering.
Well, you
into.
kind of feel like you're entering into almost a western, or
exactly.
the good, the bad, and the ugly. Or actually, the movie that Ryan and I talked about was Witness.
Exactly.
And that movie is one of my favorites, and I watched it again before we started shooting.
The house is beautiful.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's so beautiful, but I think that desolate, isolated world, which is cut off from reality and cut off from invasion of any of the outside world, I think it's really echoed in Looper. So that when Jo Gordon-Levitt's character comes in, it rocks that whole world that she's tried to keep stable for her kid.
I have a theory that every movie is called Western, so
yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a new world we're entering, does that put some responsibility on the actors also to keep the unity of the movie?
Well, I think it's more the responsibility is on Ryan, you know, because and I don't know quite how he's able to do it, probably because he's a bit of a genius, you know, he's able to thread the needle so minutely and so effortlessly, so that the movie goes from being Blade Runner into Witness. You know, I mean, how do you ever do that unless you've got real talent and real vision? And I love that. It's almost like the movie takes a pause and then you inhale and then you carry on, you know, and it's just so exciting that I got to be in that section of it. And that actually, I think the concern that Ryan had was that people were going to want to get back to the city when you got to the farmland, but he said it's actually the opposite, that people are like, this is where the movie really kicks off.
It's not your first sci-fi movie. Do you feel that it's the only genre where we can still be smart and still risque and still take this kind of changes?
I think so, because I think you can use sci-fi as a really clever tool, you know, not in the sense that you can get clever with the gadgetry, which you can, and that's entertaining in itself, but you can use it as this great tool to create a heightened environment and heightened scenarios, and you know it demands questions that you'd normally not be required to ask in a regular drama or a kind of modern day thing.
But the thing is, for us as members of the audience, when we see a sci-fi movie, we're very excited because we're genre fans and stuff like that, but it's always very disappointing, so it's the same thing, so like you said before, the generic stuff. Is it the same for you guys?
Well, it is, you know, and I've read a lot of sci-fi movies, and I've been asked to do some other sci-fi movies, and when it's just based in the gadgets and the special effects and there's no heart or there's no reason for it, then who cares? You know, it's just that stuff gets old really quick.
There is two relationships that your character have to work on. It's the one with the kid and the one with Joe. How to work on that?
Well, the little boy was just extraordinary. He's 5, if you can believe it. He was 5 when he did it. And I read with lots of boys for it, and Ryan said, you got to meet this kid, Piers Gagnon, I think he might be it. And he walked in the room, and I remember reading with him, and it was like the air shifted in the room. It was like he froze the atmosphere in the room, and people were like, what just happened? You know, he was so amazing. And And he would get it in one take. He just knew how to do it. He just has it, whatever it is. You realize when you see it in a kid, acting in its purest form, that all that stuff about technique and training and all of it, it doesn't matter. Like, you can do it or you can't. And this kid has it, you know. And I would hang out with him at every given opportunity I could. We'd have lunch together, we'd go on little trips together, we'd play games together, because we had a real bond by the end of it, and I wanted him to feel really comfortable with me, to the point where it was just the most horrible thing in the world having to say goodbye to him at the end. It was very, very difficult.
Was he at the premiere?
No, he's too young, it's too violent. I think Ryan's going to cut together a version for him to watch.
5 minutes.
Yeah, like 5 minutes. It's appropriate for him to watch.
How about Joe?
And Joe's just a real...
The same
talent.
when he enters a room.
Seriously, yeah. No, he's Joe's a talent because he's so versatile, and I think he can do anything. I don't think he's quite discovered his whole bag of tricks, you know. I think he's got more and more to discover about what he's capable of, and he makes bold choices. And I thought it's a credit to him that he managed to embody Bruce Willis without it being a cheap impersonation, and that's the reason why people buy it as a theory, you know, that they could be the same person, because they look nothing alike. You know?
What was your reaction when you knew that? When you heard that?
Well, I was like, really? That Bruce Willis is playing Joe Lemon? I think Joe felt the same. He was like, Bruce Willis, come on. But I think with the prosthetics and everything, it just hints at it enough, and it just works enough. And more than anything, the nose was perfect, and I think, and the eyebrow and all of it. But I think, and the eyes. But I think that the nose was so good, because no matter how much people's faces change, the nose doesn't change that much.
One very last thing, we're here in Toronto, and it's LOOPER who's opening the festival. It's a genre movie, it's a sci-fi movie. What does it mean? Does it mean that it's finally getting recognition, or it's...
Yeah, well, it's a great honor that it's as violent as it is, and yet it's being seen in a very kind of critically acclaimed way, and that it's intelligent enough to be seen in this kind of indie community of a film festival. And so it's a credit to Toronto that they wanted to go with it, because normally these more genteel movies are opening the festivals, and this is certainly not that.
時光旅行淪為殺人滅口通道，逆天之下，兩個我只能活一個。拯救現在，追殺未來。虎膽龍威布斯維利士，蝙蝠俠夜神起義做失夫哥頓利榮，天網役員艾美莉賓特。時凶獵殺，9月27日搶先美國獻映。